So, so good evening, everybody. This is Elizabeth Hidárraga, President of the Queens Women's Chamber of Commerce. It's our pleasure to introduce today Georgia Thomas, IRS Communication Liaison Area Manager, and Brenda Luke, Stuart Luke, Communication Liaison from the IRS, and Bethsaida Valley National Taxpayer Advocate. Welcome, ladies. We are happy to have you today with us.
Oh, thank you for having us. Again, my name is Georgia Thomas, and I'm with the Internal Revenue Service. I manage Area 4 of Stakeholder Liaison, and that is part of the organization that does the outreach and education for small business industry, and we've branched out to the underserved communities. We have a multilingual initiative, and for us, this is part of that, being able to provide outreach to your organization. We have messages also that we're trying to get out now that have to do with free file and filing now. The filing season opens tomorrow, and we want people to start filing as soon as possible and not wait to the last minute. If you file early, you alleviate the chances of being frauded because they don't get a chance because you already taken care of that business. So we certainly want people to file as early as possible as they can. Take advantage of their earned income credit if it applies to you, and also to utilize or have the knowledge that if you did get unemployment, it is taxable, so you've got to put that on your tax return as well. So I'm sure Brenda will talk about the economic impact payment. If you have friends or family in other parts of our area covers New York, of course, but Texas, the state of Georgia, Florida, North and South Carolina. So if you have groups or part of your organization is there, we certainly can accommodate by addressing them as well. So again, glad to be here and thank you again. And I'll let Brenda take over and be her support. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia.
Okay, well, my name is Brenda Stewart Luke, and Georgia is my manager, and I'm the senior stakeholder liaison out of New York. And what we're going to talk about today is the economic impact payment, and also, just like Georgia said, about the individuals that receive unemployment. So we look forward to sharing that information. And we do have a PowerPoint that you can actually be able to later on download, and we would be very happy to show this information with you. So, what we're going to talk about is the economic impact payment. And the economic impact payment came into effect here. Uh, this was in March of last year, and this first economic impact payment went into effect. So we're going to discuss that, and then we have the second economic impact payment, which started December 27, 2020. That was when that bill was signed. And also we have the notices 1444 and 144B. So can you go to the next slide? Now, this here first economic impact payment, this was for individuals that were perhaps that was eligible. The amount was $1,200 if you were single, and if you were married, you could receive up to $2,400 filing a joint tax return, and also people with qualifying children under the age of 17 at the end uh, of the tax year, or 2018 and 2019. These individuals or a parent or a person that claimed them could receive up to $500 for each qualifying child. Next slide. So the second economic payment was a little bit different. Instead of $1,200 for a married couple per person, you would receive $600. So So as a married couple, jointly, you would actually get $1,200 total. And instead of $500 as it was for each child under the age of 16, with this second economic impact payment, it would be $600 for each qualifying child. And this again went into effect as of December 27, 2020. Next slide. Now, both payments were reduced if the AGI was above 150,000 if they were married and filed a joint return. If they were head of household, 112,500, and 75,000 if a person was single or as married filing separate. Then, as it says, it was reduced by 5% for each amount that was over the adjusted AGI. Next slide. So, who would be eligible? As we said, people most likely or that would receive this first economic and second round of payments, they were U.S. citizens or resident aliens. They had workable Social Security numbers, and that was issued before the due date of the return. That would be for the return of 2019 and 2018. And also, one of the big issues were that they could not be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. So they could not be claimed by individuals. So who was not eligible? Non-resident aliens, estates and trusts, and also, just like we previously said, anyone that could be claimed on someone else's tax return. That would have been for tax years 2019 and 18 going forward. Next slide. So the economic impact payment was made to someone who died before receiving the payment. That should be returned back to the IRS. So there's instructions. I would like to say on our website, irs.gov website, if you go there, there is a part that talks about the economic impact payment. And these questions that people have, they're housed there. And you can actually go there and address certain questions that you may have, certain situations. And this information or this portal or this website is updated once a day. So let's say a question might have came in, a frequently asked question that might have been updated that you might not see tomorrow, whereas it might be a question that may be common other people are hearing. It's right there. Now, this recovery rebate credit, this is something that could be claimed for individuals who died in 2020 or 2021 when filing a decedent tax return. Next slide. Now, individuals filing a tax return using an ITIN did not receive an economic impact payment, or they are not eligible. So again, this would be individuals that had an ITIN, better known as an ITIN. They were not eligible. Now, it says joint filers filing a tax return using two ITINs, they did not receive an economic impact payment, even if they had a qualifying child. So these were some of the exceptions. They did not qualify. Next slide. Now, joint filers to file a tax return using one social and one ITIN may have received the second economic impact payment, but not the first. So in the first round of payments, the only one or the only exceptions were individuals that were a part of the military, active military, and perhaps their spouse had an ITIN. They then at that point in time, and they had qualifying children, they could qualify as married filing joint, and they at that time would be able to obtain the ITIN. Whereas now, in this second round of payments that came out as of December 27th, as long as one person had a social, they again could go ahead and file to actually obtain the economic impact payment or recovery rebate credit. So Also, not only were individuals that was on Social Security, veterans, and we talked about married couples, but this also went out to individuals that was incarcerated. So the deadline for incarcerated individuals to file a simplified tax return was November 4th, 2020. In the original filing, the previously, um, there was a little there was additional added to the CARES Act, including the individuals that were incarcerated. So if they did not receive both economic impact payment, they had to file, or they must file, a 2020 return to claim this recovery rebate credit. Now you might say, well, how am I going to do that? Well, the individuals would have to file a tax return, and that information that they did not receive, which we'll talk later about the letters that they would have received, they would put this or include this on line 30 of the tax return, the amount of the money that they did not receive. So going back to these individuals that was incarcerated, they were not denied this economic impact payment. So payment was solely because perhaps they didn't receive it, but they are eligible to receive it. Next slide. The first economic impact payment was offset when individuals owed child support, whereas the second economic impact payment, this did not apply. So the second economic impact payment were not offsets for any federal or state debt. So those individuals received the payment. In addition, the second economic impact payment may be protected also from some garnishment orders that previously was sent out, whether it could have been a lien. Now, taxpayers with direct deposit information on file, they receive the payment in various ways. So if we had your previous information, perhaps, you filed a tax return and you would do a refund, we perhaps had your information. Also, your banking information. Also, if you had the opportunity to upload this banking information on the Get My Payment tool. Those without current direct deposits, they generally, we say generally, would receive this payment via check or direct debit card in the mail. I must say a lot of individuals didn't recognize it was a direct debit card, and at some point in time, some of these direct debit cards might have been thrown away. And that's why we're saying now the same could apply. You might receive your check, or you might receive your economic impact payment or recovery rebate credit via a direct debit card. So you want to be on the lookout for that. For those eligibles who do not receive this payment for any reason, as we said before, they can go ahead and they can claim this on their 2020 or 2021 tax return that's coming forward. Next slide. Payments were issued, as we said, to eligible taxpayers who filed a 2019 tax return. So they didn't have to wait when we started originally sending out these payments. They didn't have to wait until the filing seasons, because this came out as of March 27th. March 27th. And the filing season last year was extended to July 15th. So individuals, perhaps they had already filed their 2019, or they had not filed it, I would say. So they had until July 15th to file a tax return. So individuals previously could have received it, or going forward, eligible individuals who provided their information through the non-filer tool, they could enter payment into here on irs.gov. So also eligible individuals who received Social Security benefits and VA benefits. So they didn't really have to do anything. IRS had already made an agreement for them to receive this through their regular means in which they would receive their checks. Next slide. So as it states, approximately 8 million second payments were issued to prepaid debit cards. So this Get My Payment tool on irs.gov, it would show a date that the payment was mailed out. We would say to individuals, they should watch their mail. And we have a website in which individuals also could actually go forward to see that would get updated, and that would be www.eipcard.com. So that information was valuable. Also, some payments were sent to temporary accounts that were closed. So since we're in the filing season, it says IRS will reissue payments for payments who do not receive the second economic impact payment. They will not. It says IRS will reissue payments. So for taxpayers who did not receive the second economic impact payment because of the temporary bank accounts closed, so they will reissue it. So I know that a lot of times when you call the banks will say, you have to contact the IRS if the account is closed, because I've heard of these instances that has happened. Next slide. This is a most important document that we would tell individuals, since you have members of the chamber and they may have family members, they may receive a notice 1444. Now, the 1444 was the notice that was sent out to individuals who received the economic impact payment in the first round. Actually, in the system. Children, the recovery rebate would cover children born or adopted or placed into a foster care in 2020. Also, it includes college students who were claimed as dependents on their tax returns in 2018 or 2019. When they go forward filing their 2020 tax return, perhaps they themselves are on their own and they're no longer on their parents' return. So those same individuals would be entitled to the economic impact payment. We have a recovery worksheet, and if you're using that worksheet and also the various software, they're going to ask you additional information to actually be able to utilize it, so it's lesson of error. So that's why I encourage you to use eFile. Another reason, if there's a problem, this is the first year that IRS have been able to actually put in existence, due to the voice of the community, is a 1040X. So the 1040X allows you to amend your tax return. So this will be the first year that we have in effect an electronic 1040X. So again, this would complement each other. In the event that you actually did not include everything that you needed to put down, you could go forward and have your tax return amended using the 1040X. Online accounts also allows individual taxpayers to access information about the IRS.gov. As it says, you can view your account online. This is the URL with that information. So again, this is information that we have valuable that you yourself can go in and check. Next slide. Taxpayers can register themselves to go in and actually set up an account for themselves where they can look at their information. Did I file the return? Were there any adjustments? They can look at the filing status. So the information we have listed here tells you what you need to do to set up an online account to use secure access. So basically, like the social, date of birth, and the specific information that would be adjustable to you or usable to you. So we would make sure that this is secure. So you would get a text that would go to your cell phone to ensure that the information is available. I see that there's emails coming in. I will address some of the questions if others are not answering. And also, we want to say, is it user friendly or is it language friendly? Well, this is the first year that we have the first 1040 in Spanish. So we have made a great change based on what people have asked. So this will be the first year that 1040 is in Spanish, and also a person, perhaps when they're filing their return, as of now, they have the option of determining what language they would like their notices to be received. And we have up to 20 different languages. An individual can say, I would like to have my return, or not return, but I would like to receive correspondence from the IRS in this applicable language. So the individual, going back to that electronic account, they can actually review whether they receive the economic impact payment. They can review the amount that they receive and also if they owe. So also as it states, we have digital copies of select notices from the IRS, just like I was, discussing. Next slide. So again, we talked about that briefly about Get My Payment tool. That way you're able to update your latest banking financial information so that there's no issue. Because a lot of times in preparing your tax return, also in going to a preparer, we want to encourage you, use your own bank account. If the return is going to be prepared, don't get scammed by individuals saying to you, listen, you don't have a bank account. Why don't the money come to my account? No, no, no. If you have a bank account, or even if you change your bank account, you want to let the IRS know. And if you have not received the economic impact payment and you want to put your banking information there, we have that information, or that affordability there, that portal, that Get My Payment portal, and you go to IRS.gov's information where it says Get My Payment, and that way you're able to update it. Next slide. As we discussed, we have the frequently asked questions. So this is, you can look at this day or night. IRS is open 24/7. You're able to access this information. Next slide. So you want to watch out for scams. IRS will not send you emails or text messages asking people to open an attachment or visit a website. We will not do that. Some scammers use IRS phone calls. I'm sure people have received them. If this is the situation, you want to report this to phishing@irs.gov. And that's phishing, PH instead of just F instead of regular phishing on irs.gov. This is an official email of IRS that if you receive a scam email asking you for this information that we have applicable there. Next slide. Again, we have it where we have materials that we need you. Some of this information we know is valuable to the people that you service in your community. So we're asking our partners, please get out into the community. Could you please put it on your website? And we have all sorts of posters. We have tweets that can actually help individuals get out into the community. So please, we ask, as usual, please help us, which you have been very valuable, especially even inviting us for the interview today. Next slide. If you have any questions, and just briefly, I went over a lot of the information. I will also send to you the changes that came out with the SBA and IRS in terms of the PPP plan. A lot of things that was taken into effect. People had to buy things during the beginning of the coronavirus. A lot of these now that people took out as a loan now becomes deductible. I will send that also, that perhaps we would ask if you could actually include that information on your website. And I would just say, as a business owner going forward to individuals, the most important thing I would say, be careful of who you have doing your books and records. Also, make sure that you keep good records. Also, because I'm sure many other benefits are going to come out, but you want to make sure that you've documented everything to make yourself eligible, because even though you have a tax preparer preparing your documents, when you sign that line, it's your name there. You're saying that you're responsible. So please take these things in mind. Be careful. And only other thing I'm going to say, just like Georgia brought out, the unemployment, because even individuals that was business owners or individuals that was self-employed, they went ahead and got unemployment. But from what we're understanding from New York State, they will not be sending the 1099-G. So it's important that you get this information out to your community, that the individuals have to go to New York State's website and download the 1099-G. That way they will file a tax return. And do not file the tax return with your last pay stub. You would make sure that all your people are doing this with actually their W-2. And if you're a small business owner, make sure that you're making estimated tax payments. So I thank you, and I'm available for questions. And I'd like to turn it over to Betsy.
Thank you.
Brenda.
Brenda. Excellent presentation, very clear, very informative. Patricia, you want to read the questions on the chat for Brenda?
Okay, the first question is, we have, okay, for Mary, it's from Mary. Are retiree people with not bank account eligible to receive the economic impact payment? What are the steps to follow? She's a retiree people with no bank account eligible to receive economic impact payment. What are the steps to follow?
Okay, at this current time, I mean, for them to receive the payment, they're going to have to file a tax return, and they would put that information on line 30 of the tax return. At that point in time, since you're preparing your return, you can also put your banking information. If not, like we said, the individual could be issued a paper check or a direct debit card. Now, after the person receives the paper check or the direct debit card, usually 2 weeks afterwards, they're going to get a letter from the IRS telling them about the amount of money they should have received that we sent out. So that's why they would know. And they can always go back if they go in there and they say, okay, you should have got this money, then they can go to my Get My Payment tool to check and see if they were in receipt of it. So because they do not have a banking account will not stop them from not receiving the payment.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Another question that somebody else sent it
I'm
here.
sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, before we continue, let me ask you something, Brenda. What happens if a retired person doesn't follow taxes? They are not eligible for the economic impact payment?
Yes, they're eligible. Are they an American citizen or a permanent residence?
Yes.
Okay, then
Okay.
they're entitled.
All right. Thank
But to add to that, now they have to file a tax return. Because
Oh,
before they could
Yeah.
use that Get My Payment tool, and they didn't have to file a tax return. But since that time has passed, they now have to file a return and claim that on the line 30 that Brenda mentioned.
oh, okay. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
It says someone else, people with work permit are also eligible for economic impact payment or a rebate credit?
Okay. With the work
Work
permit,
payment.
is that a valid social? No.
Mm, I think,
They-
and I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think a few of these people they have social security number and work
but
permit.
they're not a U.S. citizen.
No, they're not. No,
Okay,
yet.
so they don't get it.
They don't
Oh,
get it.
Mhm,
Okay, thank you.
mhm.
So do you have another question, Elizabeth?
no, there is more on the chat or no?
No.
The e-file language friendly. It's the e-file easy to follow for people who don't speak English or they are more fluently on any other language.
Okay. Well, a person can actually go to, or if they live in the 5 boroughs, they can call 311, or we have 311, where it would give them a list of what's called volunteer income tax assistance that would help them to file their tax return. And all these volunteer or VITA sites offer various languages. Or they can go to IRS website. I will send you the link. There is a link that a person can go into and put their address or their zip code, and they can be routed to a place that would actually help them. And a lot of the places are not seeing people face to face, they're actually having the information to virtual. So it would give an opportunity, and the people speak various languages. So there's a lot of groups that actually provides, various speakers, people that speak different languages.
Excellent.
It's free.
Yes, it's free.
Free.